everyone, and welcome to another episode of Community. I am so thrilled. I'm here in person today in Toronto-ish, outskirts of Toronto, with my friend Britt Holmes, who is an absolute ads maven. And you guys know on the show, I love to talk to marketers, but especially about ads, because I haven't had a lot of episodes about ads. I think ads are the Wild West. I know you know your shit. You get your clients amazing results. So I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
This is going to be so fun. Like IRL. Britt's also so fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so fun to chat with. So I think this is going to be so great. And what I love about you too is that you make ads really accessible for people. Even when we were just like prepping and chatting, so I was like, you don't run ads at Christmas, right? And you're like, there's more to it than just that. But I just think ads are just so scary for the business owner. And often that's like one of the first things people invest in. And I see it on the organic side where people will be like, will you run ads? And I'm like, never.
Don't put me down.
Yeah, like zero. But that's like all you do, right? And so I love that you're an expert in that. So Britt, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of your story to Merit and how you kind of got there and why you think ads are like what you are so passionate about?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm ex-corporate. So I spent over a decade kind of working my way up from, the bottom, the account coordinator role, and just like really became a really good workaholic. I've worked on brands like international brands from like Fairmont Hotels, Home Depot, Bath and Body Works, Chanel, like you kind of name it. I've touched it, not to sound like an ego, but it's just like when you're working in agency, you touch so many different accounts. And then when you're a workaholic and you work like 16 to 18 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week, you end up, experiencing a lot of things. So,
and did that come from just like love of the work, or was it like the grind or the money? Like, what's the thing that drove you that way?
I was kind of on a mission to make it to the top as quickly as I could. And I also was really, like I was saying to you before we started, is like consumer behavior is something that really excites me. And being able to make a strategy where we're like actually connecting people in a meaningful way to what like they really need to be connected with is something that I find really cool. So I have a good track record of like doing really strange things. Like one time I found out that the Weather Channel had an API for the weather, and then it was showing like how many flu severity or cases were in a given region, and then I connected it for Tylenol. So then we were like increasing their bids based on the flu severity for their cold and flu products. So
nuts.
Like stuff like that where it's like, it can be seen as creepy, but I also find it's like super cool and valuable because like if I was sick and I needed to research it, it's going to be there for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyways, so I spent a lot of time in corporate, kind of worked my way up there. By the end, I was working the 16, 18 hours internationally. So I would basically hit North American time zones. I'd move over to Europe. And then I would be also working in the APAC region. So like my calls were basically from 7 a.m. through around the clock. So then I had 2 kids and it was a lot. So it was kind of one of those situations where you just like the corporate starts to weigh on you. And like in my mind, if I made it to the top, then I would have this time freedom to be able to be the parent that I wanted to be. And, I made it to the top and they're like, oh, you're the youngest person and all these cool accolades. But the reality is like, it wasn't the life that I wanted. So one day I decided not to do it anymore. And I quit and I was like, I'm going to make sugar cookies. And that's going to be my new job. And then I went to get all the supplies and I was really bad at it. And needless to say, I'm not a sugar cookie baker. And so then I kind of just picked up some odd roles here and there. And I was like, okay, I'll give myself 3 months. If I can build this to the point where I am making my salary, like my monthly salary, I won't go back. And so it was like my 3-month mission was to like make that VP level salary in that time. And I pulled that off. Wow. And now we're just over 4 years. And we have a bunch of like top tier contractors. We work with really cool clients across pretty much every industry. And that's kind of how I came to be here.
Well, I am glad you gave up the sugar cookie grind. But isn't that so funny that you probably just were like, I need to get away from ads?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about ads in particular was interesting to you? Because obviously, like working in an agency, imagine you went to university and then finished and then kind of were like, I have a job. Great.
Yeah.
But what was it about ads that is the thing that you're like, this is like awesome?
I think that I like the fact that it's pretty black and white. Like it's
Mm,
either things are working or things are not working. And I'm naturally a problem solver. So being able to kind of be like, oh, well, what little tweaks can I make to make this work better?
right.
Or like, what consumer data, because it's all data that we work with, like, what is this data telling me? And then how can I turn that into a strategy that helps our clients to scale their businesses? And I think like you just kind of get addicted to like the increases in performance and
Hmm.
just kind of keep going from there. And of course, like when you're working with international clients, you get to go to trips in like Paris and do all these really fun things. So there was also a side of that of like, ooh, what other places do I get to go for free?
Yeah,
So
lifestyle pieces, which
yeah.
is always the hard part with like leaving corporate for anyone listening. It's like always the like I felt the same way. I had so many perks in my like 9 to 5 that it became like so impossible, but I couldn't like unsee what I was hoping for, you know? Like it just started to become like tough to like they were like the perks were just weren't worth it by the
Yeah.
end.
Totally. And like I think that I see that a lot with like some of my friends that are still in it. And it's like, the glamour of the travel definitely wears out
Yeah.
pretty quickly. And I was kind of already feeling that at that point. Like it looks great on paper, but the reality is like I saw the Eiffel Tower for the first time while I was driving in an Uber racing to a meeting at Google. Like,
Right.
ooh, so glamorous. Like not really.
Yeah,
Like
totally, totally.
so
So, listening, a lot of people who listen to this podcast, I would say, probably are in their first like 250K, 500K of business, right? And
mhm.
I'm curious for you, like when we're talking ads, because you do Meta and Google mostly, right?
And LinkedIn, yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay, LinkedIn ads are killing it out here.
Yeah, what's the new thing, right?
Well, we can talk about this in a sec, but when do you think is the right time for people to start running ads in their business? And I know that's probably nuanced depending on like what type of business people have, like whether that be e-commerce or like a personal service or whatever that looks like. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
So I have a very basic approach to this, and it's not as conventional as what other people would say in my industry. Like I've heard people that be like, "Oh, you have to make 250K or
Mm,
whatever." I kind of like to call bullshit on that.
yeah.
And the reason is that the platforms are designed so that you can kind of grow at any scale. And what you really need to do is really hone in on who your client is and like how to speak directly to that person
Mm,
is really a big play in that. But then there's also like the reality of, if you're only willing or able to spend $500 a month, don't try to target an entire country. Like that
right.
literally doesn't make sense. But if you're starting and you're like, hey, look, I only have $500 to spend on Google, for example, that's great. You know what? We're going to be targeting a radius around either your specific location or if we're looking at your consumer data, where your clients are already coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we do is we basically get that as tight as we can, get it as cost efficient as possible,
Yeah.
and then we scale on success. So instead of me coming to you and being like, "Hey, why don't you give me 10 grand? Just trust me, I'll figure it out."
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, "Hey, give me $500. Let me prove that I can make you money, and then I'm going to turn this into a money machine so that every time you come to me, I say, "Do you want more business?" Because
Right.
that's a different conversation than having to have somebody trust you with their money, especially when you're working with a small business where, we're
Mm-hmm.
looking at every dollar and where it's going. So, my key things like overall aside from this is like I really do believe that any budget can run ads is you
Mm-hmm.
obviously have to have a website, which shockingly seems like a no-brainer, but people have come to me and they'll be like, "Hey, yeah, I want to run ads. I don't have a website." I'm like, "Well, where is the traffic going to?"
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
So, the basics are have a website. Make sure that it's already doing what you want it to be doing. So, whether it's converting sales or getting people booking in with you, like it has to kind of already be doing that
Yeah.
because if it's not, then it's probably a copy problem or another problem. And I would rather not take somebody's money and find that out the hard way. I would
Yeah.
rather be like, hey, look, you don't have to have like this abundant number of sales or anything like that, but we also have to know there's a little bit of proof simply because I don't want to be spending money and basically lighting a fire on something that's we don't know is working.
Totally.
Um, and then like the third thing that I always say is like you have to have a budget because if you're hiring an agency, there's a management fee for us to actually work on your account to
Yeah.
make it as cost effective as possible. But you also have to pay the partner platform, so your Google, your Meta, your LinkedIn, to have your ads showing.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would like our management fee is evolving and you're looking at anywhere from $2,000 up probably to run an effective campaign
Mm-hmm.
and go from there. Like, it is accessible, but also I always caution, I'm like, don't DIY your ads.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you're just going to light money on fire. Like, you can Canva your social media. Like, it's kind of the equivalent of like, when you're getting into like the accounting side of things, I'm like, don't put me down for that. Like,
Yeah.
unless you're somebody that has so much time and like that's going to become like almost a full-time job for you, don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not worth it. I'd rather you not run ads than run them improperly, because then there's that whole thing that goes around the industry of like ads don't work.
Yes.
Well, it's like, no, they don't work if you've set them up improperly. You don't have your tracking. You have no idea what you're doing. And it kind of goes along with like, there's all those like DIY courses where it's kind of the same thing. They set you up until you go live. And as soon as you go live, you're screwed. There's no support. So like your only support is, trying to piece it together using AI or
Yeah.
going on Reddit channels, and it's never customized to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of, again, like just lighting your money on fire. So
What would you say are like the key mistakes you see people making when it comes to ads? Because obviously, like the DIY piece is one of them. We kind of talked about this offline too, where it's like at the social step, we've never run ads for people. That's never been part of our strategy because we don't know how. So
yeah.
I'm never gonna pretend I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And even it's so funny because I can like kind of figure out any kind of marketing. The blank space in my brain is PR and ads. I just can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
so I hire experts, right? Like if I want to do something or I want to make referrals. So what do you think when people are DIYing ads and or doing ads, even like they're outsourcing it and it's not going well? What are the key mistakes you see people make?
The key things that I see is tracking is probably the number one thing.
Right.
Because it's an additional step, and a lot of the platform will like kind of walk you through the setup piece except for the tracking. And a lot of times people just run it and they're like, it's fine. I'll just feel whether there's more traffic on my site, or I'll feel whether there's more leads coming in. And I think that that's a very big problem.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I don't like spending money unless I know it's making money.
Yeah.
And like the system is designed to show you the exact result. So if you're choosing not to use that, I think that that's a total miss. And then the other thing is like a lot of people believe it's kind of a set it and forget it thing. And that's not true.
Right.
We have like one client total that's like an old time client that we've had for a long time. And they're the only person that we don't have active management with. And their accounts haven't improved over time simply because we don't manage it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of being left just to run, and you can run them. It's just you're not going to see the cost efficiency. You're going to not see any evolution in the success of the business. You're not scaling a campaign at that point. You're essentially just running it and hoping, like a kind of like a spray and hope it works out situation.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you're talking about this, with a lot of other marketing methods, my perspective on it is hard to track, right? Like I think about something like social media or even podcasting. I was talking about somebody the other day who they have like I asked them like they have a multi-million-dollar business. I was like, where do the most of your referrals come from? And they're like your business. And she said 30% referrals, 30% like ads, 30% podcast guesting. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, that's actually a huge number. And she's like, yeah, but the thing with podcast guesting is it's like almost impossible to track. Like, you go on a podcast and then like someone's going to listen to this in 2 years and be like, wow, I love Britt. And they might not even put two and two together, or they're already looking for you. And then this was the click for them that they're going to hire you, right? But with ads, there's so much data, and you actually like need to be watching it, as opposed to some other stuff where I think it is a little bit more of a volume play, or a little bit more of like a time thing. I think with ads, at least from what I'm understanding, there is a level of like you can see results pretty quickly.
Yeah, like you can see your results immediately, right? Because you're paying to drive traffic to your website, and you can get results. The difference is that over time, it gets cheaper. So for every person that you're coming to your website and they're either completing an action or just simply visiting, the goal is to pay less. And so that's kind of the whole thing about having somebody manage it, is like my number one goal is as cheap as possible, as many leads or sales as possible. That is the most basic form of what we're trying to do through optimizations. And like if you were to talk to like most agency people, they'll be like, well, we do the beep boop and the bop bop and all this stuff, and you'll just black out. But like the reality is there's thousands of different levers that we can pull to drive the results for you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just being able to, have the time experience to be able to see that and act on it, or, just learning it over time as well.
And for those of you who are listening, I'm sure, because I'm sometimes a non-believer of different types of marketing where I'm like, that doesn't work. And I'm a recent PR recoverer because I was like, PR doesn't work, it's dead. And then started working with Katrina and I was like, okay, PR works. So curious, like, are there businesses that ads just don't work for?
I think that ads can work for anything, but I think you have to have the correct expectations for what those ads can do.
Right.
So a lot of the people that I work with clients that want to make money. So there's people that want to get awareness, or there's, different goals, or people that want to get more people on their email list.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that, again, I like to make money. So a lot of what I do is obviously there's going to be a brand awareness component.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at a given client, like what are your goals? If your goal is to either like if you're a clinician, to fill your clinic, if it's a retailer, you want to get sales in or whatever, like the goal is that. I would say, I don't know. I try to stay away from everything else.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that people get angry if you're not driving the results. So I would say, like, if you're a kind of business and, you're like a car, for example, like how frequently are people buying cars?
Yeah.
Right. So if you're a car dealership and you're like, I expect to be selling blah, 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 and I only have this small budget, there's a need to set expectations on that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that as long as when you're entering into advertising and you have those strategic conversations with whomever is running your ads, I think that gives you a clear understanding of like what is or is not worth running ads. Generally speaking, like I get a lot of like, oh, well, my industry is really congested.
Right.
I don't think I should play. And that's a big miss.
Right.
That's one where I'm like, actually, you're wrong, because you're unique. And that the way that we would write your ads is going to be very specific to how you want to show up in the world and how you want to serve your clients. And not everybody is fit for, your generic top level corporate messaging or whatnot. So you actually are able to take up space. But if your budget is limited, we go tighter. It is a smaller radius targeting.
Yes.
It is like, and that's the whole thing about the scaling of a strategy is like, you have to start small, know who you're going after, and then you can expand. Like I've not run into a business where there's not success unless they choose to not take steps to kind of move towards that success. So for example, like, it's 2 months in and they're like, well, I'm not a millionaire. Well, I'm sorry. Like, it's going to take more than 2 months.
Yes.
I don't start at the gym and expect to be a supermodel the next week.
Yeah, because you already are.
Obviously, right?
So, small jump. Yeah.
Right. But it's like those types of things. Like with anything in life, I think you need to, sometimes there's a lot of expectation setting.
Yeah.
Because I think that from what I've seen and what I've experienced over the years is like, I haven't really seen anything that doesn't work unless they're like the type of client that's like, well, this is how we've always done it. And we will not be updating our website because we like our copy crappy with no call to actions and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I'm sorry. Like, this is as good as it goes. But the reality is everything in business is ever evolving.
Yeah.
And if you're not, it's not like you have to do these vast changes, but if you're not doing those micro changes that help you to continue to grow, in anything, you're going to be at a standstill.
Yes. Well, okay, one of the things I love that you said too, Britt, is this idea of like proof of concept, right? Like I often think that people get nervous about things being competitive where it's like, I think about this even like agency to agency, like there's so many social media agencies out there and we're a little more focused on podcasting now. So I feel like we're a little more niche. But for a while there, I was kind of like, oh, like, should I keep this going? Because like everyone does people's social.
Right.
Like, does this matter? And actually, like it's proof of concept. Like that people need social media managers. People need whatever it is that you're doing, right? So I love this like idea of using their ads as an opportunity to actually highlight the unique spin that they have on the world, rather than it being like, oh, like, it's oversaturated. There's just too many of us, and now we shouldn't do this anymore.
Yeah, I think that's like, it's just such a thing of almost coming into your own brand and feeling comfortable with who you are. And I think that's often where a lot of business growth does come from, right? That's like when you start seeing the people that are showing up online a little bit more confidently or like being there a little bit more. Those people go a little bit further because people are like, wow, they're confident,
Yeah.
right? And I think that that plays into everything that you do from a marketing perspective. Even if you go to networking events, right? Like if you're standing in the corner uncomfortable and people try to talk to you and you just like blurt out this little sales pitch, it's kind of like people are kind of like, okay, whatever, you're kind of strange, but like
Yes.
whatever, right? But if you just walk up to someone and you're like, hey, how's your day going? What's going on? Like kind of from that mindset of like, we're all in this together,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to approach.
What would you say for someone listening to this and they're like, okay, Brad, I'm sold on this idea of ads. Like, is it best to start with one platform? Do you have one you like better than the others? Because, we kind of briefly touched on LinkedIn, and I know LinkedIn's amazing because it's this like awesome opportunity to kind of be a thought leader, right? Like 1% of people who are on LinkedIn are posting, right? So I imagine less people are doing ads.
Yeah.
So curious for you, if someone came to you, I guess it depends on the business, but what's kind of the pro of each one?
Yeah, for sure. So like everything that I do is like I kind of, which it makes me, I've learned is a unique thing is that because I work on a couple of different platforms, I'm able to kind of almost like, and I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I can like Harry Potter hat you into
That actually
like,
shocks me because you kind of give Harry Potter fans. Like,
I don't know if I should be upset or
don't
happy.
be offended. My husband's like a wand collector, so I say
That's
this with like
amazing.
love. Anytime we go I can't believe I'm saying this on the internet, but like anytime we go anywhere that has like a Harry Potter like shop, like he will go. Loves like the other day, get back from the mall with like a golden snitch for Jack. I'm like, Jack's 1 year old. He does not need a golden
Seems
snitch.
like a choking hazard.
Yeah, like I was like, that better be big. But like you kind of give like Harry Potter. Not a Harry Potter fan.
No, I think I've watched one of the movies.
Oh my God, you're gonna have to change that, I think.
I don't know.
That'd be too late.
Dominican Republic 2026 Harry Potter.
That's hilarious. Yeah, Britt's coming on the retreat, guys, so that's reason enough to go. I think we've got 2 spots left, so we'll see what happens by that time. But by the time this comes out, actually we'll be done by then, so we'll be wrapped. But Britt's coming, and I guess what that means is we're gonna have one day indoors where we do Harry Potter marathon. She can't leave my room. I'm gonna lock her in there, room service only. She has to watch all 8 of them.
I might like that.
Yeah, you're like,
but usually what I do is on a discovery call, once I figure out like what a business wants to accomplish, I can be like, oh, you should go here. So for example, like a quick rundown of it is Google is really great if you have a brick and mortar or like a physical location, or you're more so on the service-based side of things. On Meta side of things, it's great for brand awareness. So it's really great if you're like a new brand starting out. It's also really good if you're e-commerce or if you're a highly visual brand.
Right.
So for example, I have a brand designer that's coming on and her work is absolutely gorgeous. And I was like, I could put you on Google because you're a service business and it makes sense from that perspective, but your work is absolutely gorgeous and it needs to be seen so that people understand the value of what you offer. So those are kind of some nuances. And then on LinkedIn, it's great for B2B or people that are wanting to work with either businesses. So we worked with previously like a company that runs like business events. So they're like, it makes sense because then we can get really creepy on LinkedIn for targeting and it's fabulous. So we could target specifically like HR managers who would be organizing that event, right? Or I've worked with therapists who specialize in career counseling. Well, that makes sense because the usership of LinkedIn often, especially on the corporate side, is you look there when you are getting recruited or when you hate your life and you want a different job. These are like my basics of like, this is when people use LinkedIn. And then like, on the business owner side of things, it's different, but for the most part, like that's kind of how I look at the 3 different platforms and like where you would go.
Yeah, that's so helpful because I think often like when we're thinking about running ads, and I was telling you a little bit, we're like kind of getting close to the point where we might do this for one of our offers. We've been thinking Google because we've been getting such good SEO hits. Like we've been getting a lot of people who come from Google. So I'm kind of like, oh, should we pour gas on that? Like, and I see so many ads on Instagram. So I'm kind of like, is this like worth it? Is that how I want to show up? But I love that idea of like, is your business visual and like using that as part of the decision making.
Yeah. Like there's so many different like little things that kind of play into it. And, there's not always a right answer, but generally speaking, I like to start with one platform. Unless you're like a rather established brand and you have the budget to support it, then we run on both immediately. But I usually start on one and then we maximize that. So once we've killed that off as much as possible, and we're like, hey, we're like maxing out, like we really can't spend more money, or, you know, we want to capture maybe a new audience or that type of thing, that's when we would switch into an alternate platform as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question that I think people will be wondering, which is ads are cold traffic, right? Like most of the time.
Well, it depends on the type of ad.
Okay.
So like Meta, for example, is cold because we're basically just showing up in someone's feed or in their like marketplace searches being like, hello, would you like to buy? I mean, maybe just me. But then on Google side, someone's actively saying, hey, I want an RMT or I want this, right? So us being able to connect to that person is a direct response for that search.
Okay. So, yeah, okay. So thank you. Because I'm curious. So the way we've grown our business so much has been quite warm, right? Like events, networking, referral, like that's been kind of the thing, social. And usually people follow us for a while before they take any action. I have a limiting belief that if I was to run ads, the leads would be much colder, so it would have a harder time converting. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
Well, it can be a few different things. So depending on where we're running. So for example, on Meta, it might be because you're reaching a new audience. However, there is a point in your business where you've already tapped out everybody who knows you. So we do need to get on the consideration set of new people so that we can continue to scale your business.
Yeah.
So it might be more costly initially, but you also over time, once we get it to it being essentially this money machine that's super cost effective, and we're just like bringing people in for you to turn and nurture and close that sale, then it makes sense, right? So it's really dependent. Or if you look at it from a Google side of things, if you're saying, hey, look, we're already getting a lot of traffic here, that's great. And it allows us to kind of pull them in quicker potentially.
Okay.
But again, it also allows you to show up in a few other places, potentially like similarly related keywords, so that we can then capture more traffic that's similarly related to what we're already kind of capturing from probably your branded intent.
Yeah, okay, I love that.
So,
yeah, it's just interesting because I think for so many people, like they're worried about the lead, but I love what you're saying about how, because I get like this too when I don't have a lot of leads. I'm in one of those seasons right now where I don't have a lot going on and I'm not doing much. So it's like, that's how it works for me.
Yeah.
And if I had an ad system, I'd always probably have something going on, right? Because it would be like that, like kind of constant source. But I always get into this mindset where I'm like, I literally do not know one other person who wants a fucking podcast. Like I couldn't even think of someone if I tried. Like, you know, like it's just, I'm like, where will I ever meet someone that wants to do this again? And then a random lead will come in from somewhere. But I think that's why ads are so powerful, because that actually helps with like less of that feast and famine.
Exactly. Ads are really great for stabilizing. Like we work with a lot of healthcare practitioners where there is a lot of seasonality and there's a lot of that feast and famine. But we actually stabilize them.
That's awesome.
You know, and a lot of times, like in certain fields, if you're like, oh, that's our slow season, people naturally, like those business owners are like, oh, I shouldn't be there because it's our slow season. There is always somebody looking to spend money.
Yes.
Right? So the difference is if everyone and all of your friends and your colleagues are all pulling out of your industry for ads during that time, stay in.
Yeah,
because you're going to have a smaller pool of competition to play with. Like one of my favorite times to launch therapists is in the summer, because they're slowest in the summer, which allows me to build up their cost efficiency by the time September hits. So then when everybody gets back into market, they're paying higher prices and our guys just keep sailing right through.
That's awesome.
So it's like these little consumer behavior things where it's like you almost have to question it and be like, but what if?
Yeah.
Why can't I? And like you don't, like I said before, we don't have to spend $1 million to be able to be in the market, right? Be small, start small, grow from results, and then you just have a proven system.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, especially because that's even like the economy, right? Like when the economy's down, like that's actually where I see almost all my clients who ever pause. That's like really when they tighten up. And I'm like, now's actually the time to double down, like on what you're doing, because other people aren't, right? People are scared and they're pulling back. Like, don't give in to that unless you have to. And like, you know, it's that, or like you eat your last McNugget. Like, so it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
But if you're not in that situation, I think there's actually a lot of value in like being able to like see the long-term game. And that's actually why hiring someone like Britt who can see the strategy for that and being like, okay, yes, like, you know, maybe there's a downturn in your business in, you know, the summer months, but like, let's stay steady. And maybe that you adjust the budget or adjust what that looks like, but you're able to stay the course.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's one thing that I've made sure I'm always looking out for like our clients for is that we're one of the only agencies that doesn't do based on percentage media spend. So we have a set
talk about
fee. So I worked obviously in corporate and I'm really great at spending other people's money. Like I can kill that. Like I've had a large bank in Canada call us up and be like, hey, look, if you don't spend 20 grand today on the word car, we're going to lose our budget for next year. So spend it. I'm like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, ma'am. So like I can spend your money, but if I'm taking 18% of every investment that you're making on an ads platform, I'm going to be making lots of money and you're going to be paying me more. You might be making more money, but you also might be losing more money because the difference is that I focus on cost efficiency and driving results and growth over time. So, you know, when you first start working with us, you may be like, holy crap, this is a really expensive monthly retainer. But by month 3, when you're looking to open up a second location or you're bringing $30 back for every dollar you spend, it is like, they're like, whatever, just take my money. So that's kind of how I like to work because it covers me from an employer perspective. Like my team's covered, I'm still making money, but I'm not taking advantage of my clients being like, hey, you know what? We're doing our job well, so now you can pay us more. I'm not doing anything differently. I'm just good at what I'm doing, and I want that to reflect that. I don't want our clients to ever be afraid to increase their investment because they have to pay me more.
Yes.
It's like, if I have an issue with my fee, then I need to change my fee.
Yeah,
I don't need to take advantage of your success and, you know, make you have less money.
And I think that speaks to like so many times, I think when people are working with ads agencies, there is this narrative of how costly it is. And so it's like they can only really sometimes afford to do it one time then like, I'm sure you get it because I get it on the social side all the time where people come to you and they're burned. Like they've worked with an ads agency, like the retainer was $5,000 a month for a management fee, 20% of the ad spend, and then they're like, well, I didn't get any results. And there is, I'm sure, some testing required to ads, but what I love about the way that you work is that like it really shows how much you care about the results of your clients.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's the fun part, right? Like, ultimately, like, the reason I started Merit is, like, obviously I didn't want to work corporate anymore because I wanted to be around my kids.
And the sugar cookies didn't work out.
The sugar cookies were a total flop. It was, like, one step away from homelessness. But the reality is, like, I come from an entrepreneurial family, and I got tired of hearing, oh, ads don't work. Like, no, I made a career of it. I was a decade in. I've seen it work for 10 years. But what was happening is on the small business side, small businesses were getting taken advantage of because somebody comes into a meeting with a business owner that maybe is carrying like 100 different hats and they start speaking in jargon and make them feel overwhelmed and stupid. What ends up happening is that they just get scared and they're like, yeah, take all my money. Right. And that I don't think is good business. So like my whole thing is like, I don't like speaking in jargon. I like my clients to know what we're talking about because at the end of the day, they have to be comfortable with the investments that they're making. And I was tired of watching these like people that would take a course over a weekend and then all of a sudden they're like ad experts. I'm like, you don't know anything. And then I'd get on discovery calls and they'd be like, well, I'm making no money or I've lost all this money because of this ads person. And then I have to change that narrative. It's a lot of work.
Okay, so one of the questions we talked about ahead of time was this idea around boosting. Because I think people think boosting and ads are the same thing.
Yes.
So I'd love for you to talk about the difference about that. And then also, like, do you think boosting is good? And if not, when should people boost? Give me the scoop on boosting.
Yeah. So my approach is it's an absolute waste of your money.
Oof.
And the reason why is that you're essentially paying to be popular. And why that is that when you boost a post, it doesn't associate with any tracking. So you're essentially spending money on something that you don't really know whether or not it's doing anything for you. So where that traffic goes when you boost, so essentially you're sharing an organic post into an audience that is your same audience that you're already targeting through just your followership, right? So you're getting no new people. And then what you're doing is you're driving them back to your profile, which there is a million things to do on your profile, right? You can check out your stories, you can go through highlights, check out other posts, just generally get distracted by a notification. And then you have links to your website. So there's not really that call to action that kind of closes that consumer. So you're essentially spending money to get likes and follows, which, you know, there is a time and a place, like maybe when you're starting your brand out fresh and you want to get that brand awareness.
Yeah.
But the reality is that when you're in that stage, you're probably not at a point where you should be investing in something like that.
Right.
Like you should be maybe considering getting a website or, you know, a copywriter to figure out your brand messaging, a logo. Like there's so many other small expenses that I think that that's probably not really a priority at that stage in your business. Whereas if you're running like a traditional ad, which is what we do, you're driving it to your website, to a specific landing page that has a specific call to action or goal, and then they're doing that action. Most like, you know, that hitting that conversion rate of doing that action so that you're actually closing that loop. So then you know, hey, for X amount of money that I've spent, I'm getting this much of a result.
Right.
And I like playing in the numbers game of like, this is making me money because the reality is the first thing that goes to cut when you're tight on budget is the stuff you can't determine is a success for you, right? So I'm like, I'm not in the business of boosting posts and like being popular. I want to make you money.
Yeah.
And the other thing too that's really cool and that a lot of people don't know is that if you do an organic post and you're like, hey, look, this is really taking off, we can actually pull that through into your ad account so that we can still, you know, have that piece of content, but drive it to your website.
Right.
So I'm like, there is ways to still, like, if you're like, I really love this piece of content, we could still do that.
Yeah.
Just don't do it in a way that you're targeting your same people that already follow you.
Yeah.
And you don't know where your money is going.
That's so helpful because even for the High Vibe Women, we're always like, do we boost this? Like, where do, and like, we have had a bit of success sometimes with it because we're like hyper local and being like, this is where this is. But we aren't watching it. Like, there's no, it's like, oh, we're going to throw $80 here or whatever. But I totally agree, especially people listening to this podcast. Like, when you're early stage in business, like, that's actually not where you should be putting money. Even $80 like makes a big difference, like, especially early stage.
Like, buy an Etsy template for your social media.
Yeah.
It would do better for you.
Yeah.
Like, look like you have something branded. I don't know anything but that. Get business cards.
Also, Britt was talking before we came in here about how she gets business cards for her kids. And so that when they go to camp, that she can give them out so that they can get play dates. So cute.
Starting them young.
That's so cute. I couldn't handle it. Little mom tips for me. Okay, so curious when it comes to people's websites and copy and like all of those pieces that come along with ads, because I think of all of these services, right? Like you run an ads agency, I run a podcasting social agency. People see them pretty like isolated, right? They like they'll be like, even for so many times we've had people where their podcast, their numbers aren't growing, and I'm like, you don't talk about it on social, like you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and that's why your numbers aren't growing. And it's all kind of an ecosystem, and I imagine ads are a part of that as well. So when you see people who come to you, you know, for the first time, what do you like them to have so that they can be successful with you?
Yeah. So the first thing is a website that converts.
Yeah.
If they don't have a website that converts, I refer them to one of my copywriter partners doing a 1-hour consult.
Yeah.
You don't have to have them write your whole website because I understand that can be expensive, but have an understanding of how you want to show up in the world and update your website yourself. Like bare minimum, spend $300. The other thing that we always like to do is we like our clients to be on social media. And the difference I say is like a lot of the clients that I work with are like, I'm not a social media person. That's cool. But you know what? Are you a business card person? Are you a person that wants to show up in the world for having your business?
Right.
Be on social media. You don't have to do dances. You don't have to do anything viral, but like establish your know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
Like if you're providing a service, somebody needs to know how you speak.
Yeah.
Or, you know, results or like these types of things. Like that's not a lot of legwork.
Well, I was just going to say quickly, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I actually think people are savvier online than they were 5 years ago, 7 years ago. And the only ads experience I really have, which I think you'll find funny, this is going to give you full body ick, I think. There was a man who tried to scam me and Maria, which it's so, I'll tell you the story later. But he was going to run ads and he had an agency as well. But his agency was like an agency for agencies. And he was like, I'm going to run your ads. And I was like, okay, like as part of this. And then I started getting hit by his ads because I was obviously being retargeted. And you would go to his ads and they were like brutal, like bad ads. Then you'd go and it would lead to like basically an empty Facebook profile or an Instagram profile. And then you'd go to his website, which his website actually was kind of sick, but everything else was bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you actually can't run my ads because I'm not confident you know how to run an ad. Like that's first and foremost. But two, even if that wasn't the case and that wasn't the service, going to an empty profile, I lost all my trust. Like all he had was a few family photos on there. And like there's something to that, I'm sure. But for me, it's like I want to know that like whoever I'm being targeted by or like whatever I'm like going to purchase, there is that no like interest. I can lurk a little before I purchase.
And I think that that's important. I think it's something that a lot of the people, especially in the healthcare space, they're like, listen, I started my business because I want to help people. All this other business stuff is not my zone of genius.
Totally.
Like, and they have like a general ick around the marketing side of things. And I'm like, you know what? That's great. But you know, if somebody is in crisis and they need your support and they're trying to find somebody online and, you know, they see your ad or whatever it is, they go to your social media profile and there's nothing there. Are you still in business? What do you sound like when you speak? What do you look like?
Yeah.
And like, what do you stand for? Because those things establish trust. So it'll actually bring them in warmer closes than if they don't have those things.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think that, and I'd say to them, like, listen, everybody is sitting on a pool of data that we don't understand, like that we don't even really see, right? If you have a call, any type of call, a connection call, discovery call, partnership call, that's information. You're talking about your topic, right? If you sat and thought at the end of a week or even at the end of the day and put 3 bullets of what are the topics that I spoke about today, you have made yourself a content calendar in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Content snowball it. Make some blogs, make some social media posts, like all of that stuff. We always look at it as this daunting task, but it's like we literally are creating information all day, every day.
Yeah.
We just have to utilize it.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that. Well, and I think it's so interesting because I think a lot of the times we get just so overwhelmed by all the pieces, which is kind of bringing us back to the beginning of this, which is like, you know, there's so many ads, there's social, there's podcasts, there's so many things. And I love how much you've like really demystified ads for people because I think they don't have to be scary. And it sounds like they can be really accessible to folks. And I also really appreciate when you're telling people about what they need to run ads, like whether that be a good website, like I actually think that shows a lot of integrity because it would be easy for you to be like, yeah, I'll run an ad for you.
Yeah, I'm really good at turning people away.
Yeah, me too. In kind of closing, Britt, I'm curious for you to like wrap up for folks. Like if someone was thinking about getting started with ads, what would be like the first few things you want them to think about before connecting with you?
I think that the biggest thing is having a budget that you're comfortable spending. Because I'm confident that we can make you money, but I don't like getting in the energetics of lack. And I don't like that. I don't want to be somebody that you're going to nitpick for, you know, every day of like, well, why did you spend $20 or whatever? You have to be able to release that money for me to be able to bring more money back to you. And I know that that sounds super woo, but I really don't like working in the energy of like, almost like I'm taking advantage of someone. So I want somebody to feel comfortable in their decision to work with me in the strategy that we're proposing, as well as releasing that money so that we can make more for them.
Yeah, I love that. Honestly, like, you know, I'm woo adjacent and like, but for me, I'm such a big believer in that too, is that like, I always say, I'm like, this is your last McNugget. Don't come asking me to work. I will not work with you. Like, and I've had people where I didn't know like how close to the end of the McNuggets they were. And when I found out, I was like, I'm going to release you back into the wild because I just like can't take this money from you.
Yeah.
And even though I know we do great work, the things I do are such a long game.
Yeah.
that like I just don't think that it's the right move. So I totally get it. It can be really tough.
Yeah, for sure. And I've definitely been like, hey, look, if it's between this and feeding your family, don't put that pressure on me, because I'm not a miracle worker.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I don't want to work in that energy. So.
And my last question for you, and I know we touched on this briefly, is there a best time of year to get started? Or is it like industry dependent?
There's not really a best time to get started. The reality is that there's always somebody looking to spend money, whether there's different economies happening, there's different user behavior trends. I think that there's time. So the thing is like with ads, it sometimes takes up to like 2.5, 3 months to get up to full steam. Full steam meaning like we're getting things as cheap as possible, as much volume as possible for you. And that can take time. Right? But the thing is that we can adjust the budget based on the seasonality or the user behavior of your business at any given time. So there's not really I should wait till this or whatever. Like, obviously there's key buying periods within every industry. So it's like, for example, my e-com guys, I want them like up ASAP for Christmas, right? Like if we're getting Christmas messaging out, we're going October 1. Yeah. Like whether it pisses people off or not, like we need that dealt with, because every year people are purchasing 2 weeks earlier. Yeah. And it's been a consistent trend over the last decade. Like a lot of people start their shopping mid-September now.
Insane.
Right? I'm that person.
Are you?
I am done by the end of September.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
You don't even wait for Black Friday?
No. Because I get there's Prime Days and stuff that will fall up into that, or back to school shopping sales.
Come me, December 20th.
I'm insane. Yeah. But I also don't do a lot of buying. Our family doesn't do a lot of buying for Christmas. It's just basically the kids in the family. Yeah. But yeah, I like it done, because then I'm there's so many other expenses that I like to spend. I'm I want to do all the fun Christmassy knick-knacky art things and baking and stuff.
Yeah, for the sugar cookies. Bring them back.
Yeah, it's time, guys. But
no, I love that. That's so helpful, because I think because I came in and I was like, the only thing I really know about ads is that you shouldn't do it at Christmas time. And you're like, correct. But also, no, Britt, this has been so good. Again, you've really helped demystify ads. Even for me, I learned a ton in this episode. And I think this is going to be so helpful. And I just want to remind you folks as well that if you are interested in running ads, I know a number of Britt's clients. Britt does great work and she's awesome at what she does. So you should connect with her. But why don't you tell everyone how they can get into your world?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. Our company, again, is Merit Media. So you can find us online at meritmedia.com or on Instagram at Merit Media Inc. Inc. because me and Dr. Phil had a little bit of a battle. He brought out Merit Street Media a couple years ago. It's out of business now, so I obviously won.
Yeah.
But
she took them out of business.
Yeah, I took them out of business. But we have to include the Inc. so that I could rank. So yeah, and that's where you can find us.
Tough being in competition with Dr. Phil.
I know. I have more hair than him. That's why I won.
I'm dead. Okay, guys, go give Britt a follow. You'll also find her fun antics over there. And I'll also link all of her personal socials as well. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about ads. If it's something that you're going to try, something that you're thinking about. And I can't wait to see what you implement from this episode.